All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. And let me tell you, things are getting kind of wild over there.
Wild is a good word for it. I mean, they've gone from a relatively low-key research lab to like Silicon Valley's hottest ticket attracting billions in investments.
Yeah. And all this attention, it seems like they're constantly making headlines. Like recently, there was this whole leadership shuffle, right?
Yeah.
Their CTO, Mira Murati, just suddenly left, and then a few other top execs followed.
Right. Yeah, that kind of rapid turnover at the top, especially in a company growing as fast as OpenAI, it does raise some questions about stability.
Absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
what's happening behind the scenes?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if there are disagreements about their strategy.
Exactly. And it can definitely make investors a bit hesitant. Like, is everything okay over there?
For sure. And then on top of that, there's this talk about a major restructuring,
Mm.
like potentially moving away from their nonprofit status and
Yeah.
going full on corporate.
Yeah, that would be a huge shift. I mean, on the one hand, becoming a traditional corporation could make it much easier to attract investors and reward employees with things like stock options. But
Yeah.
while there's the risk of mission drift, you know, OpenAI started with this goal of ensuring AI benefits all of humanity. But when profits and shareholders become the priority, sometimes that initial vision can get
Oh, I
lost.
see what you mean. Like they'd be under pressure to deliver financial results, maybe at the expense of their original mission.
Precisely. And it's something we've seen happen with other tech companies, so it's a valid concern.
It really is. It's like they're caught between these two worlds, their idealistic beginnings and this sudden rise to, well, Silicon Valley stardom.
Yeah, and speaking of stardom, have you seen the amount of funding they're attracting? I mean, it's insane.
It's mind-blowing. They're currently working on a new investment round that could value them at, wait for it, $150 billion.
You've got to be kidding me. That's like putting them in the same league as Goldman Sachs.
I know, right? It's incredible. But it also shows you the level of confidence investors have in them and in the potential of AI in general.
Definitely. I mean, AI has the power to revolutionize everything. The potential returns are enormous, which is why companies like Microsoft, Nvidia, and Tiger Global Management are all eager to get a piece of the pie.
It's like the AI gold rush.
Yeah.
And speaking of big players, did you hear about Apple? They were reportedly considering joining this funding round, but then they backed out.
Yeah, I heard about that. Apple is super careful with their investments, especially those outside their core areas. So them pulling out suggests they might have some concerns. Maybe they saw more risk than reward at this point.
It definitely makes you wonder what their reasoning was.
Mm.
It adds another layer of intrigue to this whole saga.
It does. And it kind of brings us back to OpenAI's unique challenges. They need this massive funding to drive their ambitious projects, but it also puts them in a very delicate position.
Yeah, you mean with regulators?
Exactly. Antitrust regulators are getting increasingly worried about the potential for monopolies in the AI market.
Yeah.
They don't want to see a handful of companies controlling this game-changing technology.
So OpenAI is walking a tightrope. They need the money to push AI forward, but they also have to be careful not to trigger an antitrust investigation.
You got it. It's a tough balancing act. And it really highlights the complexity of this whole AI boom we're experiencing.
It does. I mean, are we really at the start of a technological revolution like the internet? Or is this just a lot of hype?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We've seen the potential, like with ChatGPT, which has over 200 million users every week, but we also need to be realistic about the challenges.
Yeah, I mean, ChatGPT is amazing, but the financial viability of a lot of these AI applications is still uncertain.
Right. Developing and running these AI systems is incredibly expensive, and finding a way to make consistent profits from them is a huge hurdle for the entire industry. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. OpenAI, they started with this like super idealistic vision.
Yeah, attracting all these brilliant minds who really wanted to, like, change the world,
Exactly. But now they're attracting these massive investments and operating more like a regular tech company. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
And it's got to create this tension between their original mission and the reality of like a super competitive, profit-driven environment.
Totally. It's like trying to balance those two identities, and then you add the pressure from regulators and this need to actually, figure out how to make money from this incredible technology.
Yeah. It's a lot to juggle.
It really is.
And honestly, it's not just an OpenAI thing. This is something the whole AI industry is grappling with, right? Like, how do you balance all this amazing innovation with, ethical considerations?
Right.
How do you get all the funding you need without creating these, like, AI monopolies? These are questions that are going to shape the future of AI, and there are no easy answers.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
But it's pretty amazing how much there is to think about here. I mean, we're not just talking about some cool new gadgets, right? This is tech that could reshape, like, our entire society.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important for everyone to understand what's happening because, the future of AI isn't just in the hands of these big tech companies.
Right.
It's really up to all of us to decide what role we want this technology to play in our lives.
So let's get a little more practical here. How is AI actually going to impact people's everyday lives?
Well, I mean, it's already happening in a lot of ways. Think about the algorithms that decide what you see on social media or those voice assistants we use at home.
Yeah, good.
But as AI gets more sophisticated, the impact is going to be even bigger. Imagine education that's totally personalized to how each student learns best.
Whoa.
Or healthcare systems that can diagnose diseases super accurately and come up with individual treatment plans.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it that way.
It is. AI could totally revolutionize whole industries and help us solve some of the world's biggest problems.
It's definitely exciting. But I gotta admit, all this talk about AI replacing jobs is a little scary. And what about misuse? Could AI be used for, like, bad stuff?
Yeah,
That kind of keeps me up at night.
I get it. Those are real concerns. AI, like any powerful technology, has the potential for both good and bad, and that's why it's crucial that we figure out how to manage the risks.
Yeah.
So, we need to make sure AI is used ethically and responsibly, like tackling bias in algorithms, protecting our privacy, and we definitely don't want AI being used for things like autonomous weapons.
No, absolutely not.
Those are complex issues that are going to require everyone to work together. Governments, industry leaders, researchers, the public.
Right.
We need to be having these conversations now before it's too late.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, you've definitely given us a lot to think about. It can be a little overwhelming, but it's super important to be aware of this stuff.
Totally agree. Knowledge is power, right? The more we understand about these transformative technologies, the better we'll be able to deal with the challenges and the opportunities they bring.
So true. So we've talked about OpenAI's ups and downs, the AI boom in general, the good and the bad of this tech. Anything else we should touch on before we wrap things up?
Hmm. Well, I think it's worth mentioning the whole open source AI movement. You have these companies like OpenAI getting these huge investments and keeping a lot of their stuff pretty secretive.
Right.
But there's this other part of the AI community that's all about making research and development open and accessible to everyone.
I've heard about open source AI, but to be honest, I'm not really sure what it means.
So basically, with open source AI, the code and the data used to build AI systems, it's all freely available for anyone to use, change, and share.
Oh, okay.
And this is a big deal for a few reasons. First, it allows everyone to work together. Researchers and developers from all over the world can build on each other's work, which means faster progress.
So it's like a global team effort to advance AI.
Yeah, exactly. And second, open source AI makes everything more transparent. Anyone can look at the code, so it's harder to hide biases or security flaws.
That makes sense.
It helps build trust and make sure AI is used ethically.
I can see why people are excited about open source AI. It seems like a really good way to make sure the benefits of AI are shared by everyone, not just a select few.
Right. That's the whole idea. It's about making AI more democratic and beneficial for all of society.
So we've got OpenAI dealing with all this pressure, the AI industry exploding, but also facing scrutiny.
Mhm.
And then we have this open source movement, like pushing for a more collaborative approach to AI development. It's a lot to keep track of.
It definitely is. The AI world is changing so fast, and it's fascinating to see how all these different factors are shaping the future of this world-changing technology.
Well, I'm really glad we have the chance to talk about all this today. I always learn so much from our deep dives. But before we go, is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important thing is this. The future of AI. It's not set in stone. We all have a say in how it unfolds.
It's kind of wild, right? We started talking about what's happening inside OpenAI, and now we're discussing the whole future of AI.
I know, right? It really shows how connected everything is. OpenAI's journey, it's like a microcosm of everything happening in the AI world right now.
Okay, so let's bring it all home for our listeners. We've got OpenAI at this crossroads. The whole AI industry is booming, but there's also a lot of scrutiny. And the future of AI, well, that's still a big question mark. So what's the one thing you really want our listeners to think about after this deep dive?
Well, I think the most important thing is to remember that AI isn't just some far-off science fiction thing.
Right.
AI is already here, it's changing super fast, and it's going to have a huge impact on all of our lives. The real question is, what kind of impact do we want it to have?
That's a good question.
Do we want AI to be a force for good in the world, helping us solve problems and make things better? Or do we want it to, like, create new problems, increase inequality, give too much power to just a few companies?
Yeah.
The choices we make today, they're going to determine the answer to that question.
That's a powerful thought. It really makes you realize how much responsibility we all have.
It does.
So, what can our listeners actually do? How can they be a part of shaping this future?
Well, first and foremost, stay informed, right?
Yeah.
Read about AI, listen to podcasts like this one, talk to people about it, about the ethical side of things, the impact on society. The more we all understand about AI, the better decisions we can make about how it's developed and used. Don't be afraid to, ask tough questions, challenge what you hear, hold the companies and institutions building these AI systems accountable.
I love that. It's not about just sitting back and watching. It's about being involved and making our voices heard.
Exactly. The future isn't something that just happens to us. We all have a role to play in creating it.
Well said. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground today, from OpenAI's challenges to the bigger picture of this AI revolution.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. And to our listener, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative and got you thinking.
Keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep shaping that future.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into OpenAI. We'll catch you in our next episode where we'll explore another exciting topic. Until then, stay curious.